won't keep everybody holding on for much longer. Let me tell you who I am. So I am an ex-professional dancer turned entrepreneur turned coach. And I'm somebody who has constantly either bucked the trend or achieved what I have using a route or a play that was never expected of me. So I began, I'll try and do this as quickly as I can in a nutshell. But I started out thinking that my career was going to be very academic. And in school, I was exceptionally academic. And when I went to university, I went there to study biomedical science so I could do forensic pathology as a career. Whilst I was at university, or during, for years up until then, so into my second year at university, I also danced. Now, I was not considered anything close to being a professional dancer. In fact, it was definitely a hobby. It was something that I just did for fun, and it was a great release of energy, and it allowed me to be a little bit creative. And I never considered myself a creative because I was an academic, and everybody told me I was an academic, and everybody said, that's the path you are going to take. You're smart, you learn, you're able to communicate your knowledge. This is your chosen career. This is your path. And so 2 years into my degree, I decided that that wasn't my path anymore. What I really wanted to do was the thing that I woke up loving doing, and that was dancing. Now, I'd never trained in a formal dance school, or, had anything remotely considered professional dance training. I had nothing like that. My training was in a local youth and community center. It was in hip hop and street dance styles. It was fun. It was cool. It brought the community together. It was that kind of feel, but I loved it. I knew that I loved it. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do every day. So I essentially walked away from my degree and decided that I was going to dance for a living. Now, everybody knows how difficult it is to get into the entertainment industry, let alone if you have not got any kind of formal dance qualification, if you have not trained in any of those formal dance styles, classical, contemporary styles, or jazz styles, which I had nothing. And then, of course, being a woman in the hip hop space, at the time was really strange, because the way women were viewed in hip hop back then was, it was slightly different than now. I guess we've taken a bit more control now, but it was a lot worse back in the 90s. And then also being plus sized in the industry. So I had all of these things that were technically going against me. But still, it was the thing that I loved, and I was just going to do it, and it's what I wanted to do it. And my parents were devastated, because I was an academic and I was supposed to be doing this thing. When I said, I'm just going to go and dance, I'm going to go and do it, pretty much everybody turned around and said, you've made the biggest mistake of your life. This is over. Your life is over for you now. You're 20 years old, forget about it. But I decided that actually I was just going to give it a shot and see what happened. And that was my mentality back then. Let's just give it a shot and see what happens. If it all falls down, I'll go back to university. I'll be the academic everybody wants me to be. Turns out that for a few years, it did all fall down. It was an exceptionally difficult industry to get into, but I kept on pushing and I kept on going. And even though everybody thought this was going to be the end of me, it turns out that I did manage to forge a career in dance. So starting out teaching, so that way I was able to pay my rent. And then moving on to doing commercial work, which meant that I got to do music videos. And then shortly after that, I got approached. Well, I didn't get approached. I went to an audition for a global sports brand, which at the time when I was at the audition, I was there to support a really good friend of mine. I wasn't there to audition myself because I knew full well I was going to get the no. And I just I couldn't be bothered with the knockback. It was one of those days where I just thought, I don't want to be told no today. I'm doing well. I'm doing okay. This is way beyond me. And that's okay. But my friend, she's great. She's definitely going to get it, and I'll be there to support her, and that's fine. Anyway, long story short, after a massive audition process that took place across Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, I ended up securing a spot as a featured dancer in a Nike commercial.
Now we're going to pause. We're going to
Right.
pause really quickly here. You said the magic key words for me to know that the pause needs to happen. Long story short, right?
Yeah.
So 1 second you're like, they're absolutely not going to choose me, and then you get like a featured dancer spot for Nike. Like, if we had to slow that moment down, right? Slow that experience down. Take us to that moment. Take us to the moment where like you're in that room, you feel that day, right? Like maybe not the entire process, but that first time you're in that room and you're feeling that day, and you're just like, I just don't want to be told no today. Take us to that moment. Take me to that moment. Tell me what happened from there.
That moment happened a few times, interestingly, because the audition process took place over a number of days. So on the first day, when I decided I didn't want to be told no, and actually it was the casting director who said to me, hey, have you put your name down to audition? And I said, no, absolutely not. And he said, well, you've just queued outside for 6.5 hours. You may as well do something now you're here. So I thought, well, that's fun. Yeah, why not? I'll give it a shot. There's no way in hell they are ever going to let me through this audition, but I'll just do it. And I don't care about the outcome. Like there was no pressure. Because I was so sure they'd say no, and it didn't matter to me. And because it was an audition that was recorded, so it wasn't an immediate feedback audition, you just made a tape. I was like, you know what, that's fine. So I did. And going into this audition, they were very specific about the brief, the type of dancer that they wanted. They wanted a female dancer who could booty shake. That's what they called it at the time, booty shake. We hadn't invented twerking necessarily back then, but it was booty shake. And that was against everything I believed in, absolutely everything. So hearing that this was the brief, I went into that audition. I was like, yo, listen, there is no way on hell I'm doing that on camera. That's mental. I'm going to show you what it is that I do, and I do well. And these are the dance styles that I believe in. And these are the dance styles that I think women in dance should be really focused on training in and becoming brilliant at. Because right now it's very male dominated, and it doesn't need to be. Women are just as strong. Here it is. So I did that. Again, 700 dancers auditioned for them that day. And I was the only one that was like, stuck 2 fingers up at them and said, your brief is ridiculous. I'm not doing it. But that took me through into the next audition. They noticed me. It was different. I guess they just wanted to see just how different I was. In the next audition, again, this was a taped audition, but actually it was live streamed to the choreographer in LA. And although he couldn't feed back to us directly, I knew that he could see it. And in this audition, the brief was, be yourself, but show us all of your classical, all of your contemporary, all of your jazz training, everything that you've been trained beautifully to do in these huge institutions. We want to see it. We want to see your pedigree and where you come from. I was like, man, listen, again, I'm not from that world. I'm a kid who grew up with the local youth and community center. My parents didn't have money to send me to dance school, and even if they did, they wouldn't have sent me there. I'm a kid that has learned hip hop in a very hip hop environment. That's what I do. So the casting director at the time said to me, do you know what, don't worry, just make it up. He says, I'm going to call out the styles, you just make them up. So I said, excuse me, sorry, you're going to call out ballet and I'm just going to make it up? And he said, exactly, just do it. Why not? So I thought, do you know what, this is going to be fun. I'm going to do exactly that. So he was like calling out all these styles, and I was like, ballet and jazz, and here's my tap, and completely making it up. The looks of disdain from the professional dancers who trained years to do these styles. And there was me, the street dancer, wearing the hoodie and the cap, showing them what she thought ballet was. It was awful. I was prancing around that studio like a baby elephant. And I hope to goodness that tape never surfaces, because I do not know what it looks like. But in the end, I did the style that, again, I believed in, that I was comfortable in, that just felt like me. It felt like home. That then turned into, from originally 700 girls auditioning down to a top 30 auditioning. Now I'd made it somehow miraculously into the top 10. Now, these top 10 weren't just from London. They had auditioned across Europe to find these top 10. And this audition was the first time I would do my thing in front of a panel of judges or in front of the choreographer and his assistant. The client that I found out then was Nike. Somebody representing the advertising agency, Wieden and Kennedy, huge advertising agency. They were all there on this massive table just staring. And one by one, we each had to do our thing. And so, again, I went in.
Can I ask a quick question here?
Yes.
Okay. Firstly, thank you. That's really captivating. So I'm with you on this journey here. You've gone from 700 people, and I don't want to hear no today, to a group of 30, and they're calling out different like dance styles, and you're like, I don't know, this like, and you're out there just bringing whatever you can bring to that table there. Like, I just want to if you can, you may not be able to, but I'd love to like just go a little bit in your head a little bit around like, what was it like being in that room with either doing the dances themselves, like just being like, okay, I'm going to be there when it came to the top 30, or being in a room with the top in that top 10. I'd be really curious, like what was going on through your mind, because I'm seeing what's happening on the outside, and I'm really curious, like, all right, and you may not be able to really recall it, but if there's a moment, or if there's a sensation or a feeling that came to mind, I'd love to hear a little bit about it. We're just getting started. Click on the link below to watch the full conversation, and go to niyamaashaun.com/tribe to get additional resources and exclusive invitation to tribe-only events. Journey on.